Hello, and welcome to the Working Mom Happiness Method podcast. This is episode 4, and this episode is all about body image, self-image, and maintaining healthy habits. And remember, we're still in module 1. And module 1, the theme of module 1 is values, as we've talked about in the last couple episodes, and you had some homework that you were supposed to do, right, in starting your Best Life Master Plan document. So if you haven't if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back and listen to those and to the introduction. But what I also do in the first 3 modules is we have one lesson related to body image, self-image, and maintaining healthy habits. Because if you'll remember in the introduction, when I covered what the Working Mom Happiness Method is, underlying the whole method, so underlying the 4 modules, which are values, goals, boundaries, and tools for success, is body image, right? And this whole idea of learning how to finally maintain healthy habits, to switch from starting and stopping healthy habits over the years to getting into consistent healthy habits that you can maintain for the rest of your life, because that is the goal. There's no such thing as sort of, getting to a certain point and then stopping, right? If we want to feel good and healthy for the rest of our lives, we have to maintain healthy habits for the rest of our lives. And the key to that is finding healthy habits that you can sustain. And so we're going to start that discussion today. So during today's episode, what we're going to cover, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story as it relates to body image and weight loss and dieting. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about why you are fixated on losing weight or not gaining weight or the way that your body looks. And then we're going to talk about changing your mindset. We're going to redefine success and what that looks like. We're going to talk about letting go of perfection and an all or nothing mindset. And we're going to do a little homework to start working on retraining your subconscious mind. Okay, so let's jump in with, I'll tell you a little bit about my personal story as it relates to body image and weight loss and dieting and yo-yoing and stopping and starting my whole life. Yep, I am one of those people. And my earliest memories of body image, where it became a thing to me, where I was worried about what my body looked like, go back to kindergarten with a friend of mine who was my age, her older brother, saying I had a big butt. And I can remember going clothes shopping with my mom in kindergarten and wanting to get things that would cover up my butt. Like I can remember wanting to tie something around my waist as early as like kindergarten and first grade ages. And from there, it really just, my body image issues never stopped. That's kind of where it started. From there, they just were further defined by the pressures that society puts onto women. And also something that I think is important to note is that throughout my childhood and into my teenage years and into my 20s, I was perfectly healthy. I played sports very competitively my whole life. In high school, I played 3 sports, sometimes simultaneously. I was never unhealthy. I was athletic. I was strong. I was moving my body. I never had any kind of health issues or anything like that. I do live in a larger body. So I can remember usually I was the largest of my friends from just like a height and a body type perspective. I am not super tall. I'm about 5'7", but I just always seem to be around friend groups who are mostly smaller and shorter than I was. And so I always thought that there was something wrong with me and that I needed to lose weight, even though I was so healthy and so active the whole time. And so my story kind of, that's how it goes. So I've done throughout, really starting, I can remember wanting to lose weight in 6th grade and on, and then really getting into dieting, probably like in my late teens, early 20s is where I started to try every diet under the sun. So I've done Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Atkins and all Beachbody Portion Fix and the Beachbody 2B Mindset and soup diets and juice cleanses. And Whole30, like anything you can think of, I have tried it. And the reality is that, sometimes I would lose weight, but never would I keep it off. Never. It was the classic case of yo-yo some weight. I would be starving and miserable and, just feeling exhausted, but then I would lose some weight and I would feel like, okay, I lost some weight. So now I can get off of this diet. Right. And then all the weight would come back, always plus a little bit more, right? So my weight had been creeping up and up over the years. Then fast forward to 2009, when I had my first son, he's now 12. And I obviously, you know, the weight gain with when you have a baby, you gain weight, and I gained quite a bit of weight. And with that, I really started to get to a low place and spiral. And I ended up with a therapist. And I mentioned this in the first episode when I was telling you a little bit about my overall story, but as it relates to body image, I had kind of really lost myself after I had my first son. About when he was like 9 months old, I was trying to figure out how to get back to like just kind of feeling good in life and not feeling like a zombie. And so I decided to get a therapist for the first time. And she's the one who really helped me see how body image was ruling my life, right? So all those years that I told you that I was fixated on it, I knew I was fixated on it, but I didn't realize how it was impacting my life, because it was like, it was taking all of my energy. It was my main fixation and focus in life. And that just wasn't a life that I wanted to live. And she's the one who convinced me she helped me learn how to understand that I have value and worth outside of the way my body looked and outside of just trying to please other people and do everything for others, that I was valuable and worthy just for being me and outside of those things. And that was, you know, working on that was the first step. But part of working on that was she told me that I needed to stop focusing on losing weight. So stop trying, I'm holding up air quotes, stop trying to lose weight. And that was completely terrifying for me. I literally thought, and I told her, I said, I have heart issues in my family, cholesterol issues, all of those things. And if I stop trying to lose weight, I will gain a bunch of it, I will become unhealthy, and I will die. And I really, truly thought that. And so I pushed back for a very long time, for months and months, as we kind of worked through my issues. And for whatever reason, I finally decided to try something different, because we know the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And so the rule that she gave me was for 6 months, I was not going to do any type of dieting or restricting. I was going to eat whatever I wanted, and I wasn't going to do any structured exercise, which was like so new for me, because exercise was something that I was just like sometimes overdoing, honestly. I was allowed to move my body in ways that I thought were fun, right? But not considering it like structured exercise, right? And I did gain some weight when I did that, because I had been restricting, you know, quite a bit. And so I gained some weight, and it was the scariest process, but it was also the most freeing process. And the journey took longer than 6 months. I do want to make that clear. But, you know, where that journey has taken me is that I learned that your health and your weight aren't as related as society would have us think. You can be perfectly healthy and be a weight on the BMI scale, which, by the way, is complete BS. The BMI scale is complete BS. Unfortunately, our society still uses it in lots of ways, including insurance coverage, which has just got to change, and it's so wrong. But what I learned is that you can be obese on the BMI scale and be perfectly healthy. In fact, that is the case for me right now, today, as I'm recording this. I am technically obese on the BMI scale, and I am perfectly healthy. My blood stats are healthy. I feel great and have good energy most days. No one's going to feel great every single day, but most days I can physically do what I want to do. I move my body 6 days a week. I eat mostly nutritious foods with obviously some treats. I live a balanced life as it relates to that. And so I learned this whole concept that you can be perfectly healthy and still be what society defines as obese. Okay. And I didn't die. Here I am 12 years later, healthier than I have ever been. I weigh a little bit more than when I went to that therapist after gaining weight from my first baby. So I have not lost, you know, a bunch of weight or anything like that. And I am perfectly healthy. And so we need to redefine our definition of health. And I'm going to talk about that more in this episode in just a minute. But that allowed me to be more consistent than I have ever been in my entire life with healthy habits. I have now been doing consistent healthy habits without stopping, starting, yo-yoing for literally years at this point. And what happens is when you are focused and fixated on weight loss, you start you're motivated, you start some kind of program and some sort of new thing where you say, okay, I'm gonna work on my healthy habits. Probably you say, I'm going to lose weight. That's what most people say. That's what I used to say before I learned this. So you start some sort of tracking food or eating certain foods to try to be more healthy and probably try to lose weight. You start some form of exercise or body movement to try to lose weight, and you're motivated in the beginning. And so you're doing really well. And a few weeks go by and you're like, wow, I am working so hard. I'm rocking this. You probably feel a little hungry because you're coming off of, eating more of what you wanted, most likely is what motivated you to get started on this journey. And then you're tracking the scale, but the scale's not moving. You've lost like 0.2 pounds or you've gained a couple pounds. And so you're thinking, well, this is crap. Why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? And why am I hungry? And why am I getting up earlier and meal prepping and doing all these things? If it's pointless, the scale's not moving, right? That's our mindset. And that causes a guilt and shame cycle that goes like this. Scale's not moving. This is dumb. F this. I'm going to eat what I want. And then you start eating what you want. Well, then you gain back all those, whatever, 0.2 pounds that you may have lost during that process, right? And you start feeling kind of crappy again, okay? Because you're probably eating less nutritious foods or whatever, you're feeling crappy about yourself. And so you say, oh, I need to get started, I need to do something. And then the whole cycle begins again, right? And then there's the guilt and shame of when the scale doesn't move, you eat to soothe yourself, right? So that's a whole cycle and it's very real. And almost all of us have done it. Well, when you take the scale out of the equation, what's really going on is that the amount of health benefits you are getting from the changes that you've made, especially from the body movement. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, but in all the studies they've done of blue zones and places where people live the longest and healthiest lives, the top two things they have in common are relationships and body movement. Food and nutrition is not in the top two. It's on the list, but it's not in the top two. So the health benefits you will gain from body movement are massive. Heart health, brain health, helps you process stress and anxiety, helps you sleep better, helps you with bone density, muscle, flexibility, all the list literally goes on and on and on. The health benefits that you get from moving your body that have absolutely nothing to do with losing weight, literally nothing to do. And by the way, when pursuing weight loss, exercise is not what gets you there. It's not about exercise. The reason to do exercise and body movement is for all those other health benefits that I just rattled off. And it is hugely and massively important. And body movement can equal a few minutes of stretching, 5 minutes of walking. It doesn't have to be where you're sweating it out and, going to a gym and miserable. It doesn't have to be something that makes you feel miserable. There's a whole episode on sustainable body movement later in the program. So I don't want to go too far into that right now, but we will get into that more later. So this journey that I went on, shifting my focus away from weight loss and over to actual and true health, literally changed my life. And since I've talked about it with many other women, it has changed their life as well. And I'm not the only one talking about it. There are books and people you can follow on Instagram. Intuitive Eating is an awesome book. Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon is amazing, changed my life. The list goes on and on of people who are talking about this, but for me, it truly changed my life. And as I've coached other women along those lines, it has changed their life. So that's my story. Let's talk about why we are all so fixated on the way that our body looks. I mean, in one word, it's money. Unfortunately, money is the reason why you are so fixated on wanting your body to look a certain way, right? And where that comes from and why I say money is that the diet and beauty industry makes combined worldwide over $200 billion a year. And in order for that industry to thrive, they need you to not like the way you look, because the more you don't like the way you look, the more money you're going to spend on diets and beauty products. They want you to fail. And in reality, diets do fail 95% of the time when you measure them out 2 years and later. And multiple studies have been done to prove this. Scientific studies over long periods of time and years ago. When you go on a diet and you start restricting some certain type of food for the purpose of losing weight, and that's your goal, is losing weight, 95% of people fail when you measure it out over 2 years. And that means 95% of people gain all the weight back when you measure it out over 2 years. And that is in the diet and fitness industry's best interest, because then you keep paying for the things. So those restrictive diets that you see, the ones that cut out entire food groups and things like that, not sustainable for the rest of your life. And that's what we have to start focusing on, is what are the healthy habits that you can implement and that you can sustain literally for the rest of your life. And they might ebb and flow and change. Your needs might change, over the rest of your life. So it doesn't have to look exactly the same for your whole life. But when you're working on setting up healthy habits, you have to be thinking of the long term. We have to change the mindset of short term and move to long term. What can I continue to do realistically for the rest of my life? What do I have to say no to? What do I have to change in order to prioritize myself? Because remember, if you're following the program strictly and you've done the homework, you now have your list of values with you at the top, and your health goes in there, right? So that's why money, the diet industry, you have been influenced from the time you were a very, very little girl, that your value and your worth is rooted in plays a huge part in how you look and how your body looks. And the diet industry has purposely, the diet and beauty industry made you feel that way. And those diets are purposely, well, I don't think in all cases they are maliciously set up to make you gain weight, but they are not designed to be sustainable. Those diets, they're not designed to be sustainable. And that's something that we really have to take seriously. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about what I was talking when I said weight loss and health, or weight and health aren't as intertwined as we think. There is a correlation between weight and health, but correlation is not causation. And in this book, Health at Every Size, there are so many fascinating things that she covers in scientific studies. And it's a little textbooky, but I would highly recommend it if you're somebody who's been yo-yoing and you really have struggled over the years with focusing on weight loss, but not being able to do it. It's like mind-blowing. There are multiple studies on people who have gotten rid of their type 2 diabetes without losing weight, just by they changed their things they were eating, but they didn't lose significant amounts of weight. So health equals healthy habits. Health doesn't equal what your body looks like or how much you weigh. Health does not have a look, okay? So let's keep going. Let's talk about redefining success, okay? What most of us have been brainwashed to believe by society in that diet and beauty industry, and some of us by our parents and whatnot, is that success is being skinny, being thin, looking like a fitness model. Like, I know I have personally put pictures of fitness models on my bathroom mirror, which, by the way, is an example of being very mean to yourself. I know we think of it as like nice and motivating to ourselves, but it's actually very mean to yourself. And if you've done it, like, I'm not trying to beat you up. I've done it. There's no judgment, but it has to change. We have to be nicer to ourselves. And let me tell you, I'm going to tell you in a second why it's mean to yourself to put a picture of a fitness model on your mirror. But first I want to talk about what success is, what success should be based on. And it should be based on feeling good with good energy most days, being able to do the things that you want to do in your life physically and feeling good about that, accepting your body the way it looks right now, and blood stats. So all the typical blood stats you can get at the doctor. Blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, right? All the ones that we're aware of. Get rid of the scale. And I know that's hard. You don't have to get rid of the scale today. That's a baby step in process, but stop focusing your success on the scale and go to your doctor and get all your blood stats taken and see where you actually sit from a health perspective. And then use those as a gauge of am I being consistent enough in my healthy habits? The scale just fluctuates for so many reasons. And quite frankly, you just might live in a larger body that is perfectly healthy at a larger weight that society doesn't accept, but it could be totally fine if you learn to accept it, okay? And the reason that it's dangerous and mean to yourself to have that picture of that fitness model on your mirror is because the true reality is that bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. And genetics is the biggest factor in the way your body looks. And genetics is the biggest factor in who becomes a fitness model and who does not. And I'm not taking away that they work hard. They absolutely do work hard. However, if you went and lived with that fitness model and you ate exactly what she eats and you moved her body exactly as she does, so you mirrored her exactly, okay, let's say for 6 months, might you lose a few pounds? Sure, maybe you would, maybe you won't. But the reality is your body's not going to look like hers because you have different genetics, okay? Or maybe you do have a body that looks more genetically, naturally lean like a fitness model? And if so, awesome. That's one version of health. Great for you. You don't have to work as hard to get those pounds off as a lot of other people do, but that's great too. All bodies are good bodies, and health doesn't have a look, right? But for the majority of us, if we went and lived with her and mirrored her exactly, our body would never look like hers, literally never. And she'd be cheerful and happy and having a great old time. And we would be hangry and miserable and hating our lives, because our body's needs is different from her body's needs. Okay. That's a really important thing to accept. Okay. Your body, no matter how perfect you get, I'm holding up air quotes, society's definition of perfect with your nutrition and your body movement, most likely most of us, a very large percentage of us will never look like a fitness model. Okay. And that's why we have to stop basing success on that and basing it on how we feel and how we're able to live our lives and our blood stats and true health instead of look. Health does not have a look. And I know you might be thinking that's BS. That's not true. I know people who look unhealthy. Well, be careful with that, because they may not be. And they may have something that's going on that you don't know about. And another important thing is stop commenting about other people's bodies. Yes, I'm lecturing a little bit, but we have to stop commenting on other people's bodies. And where we are like the worst at this is complimenting other people's bodies. Because number one, you never know what you're complimenting. When you tell somebody they look great because they've lost weight, they may have gone through a divorce, cancer, an extremely stressful situation, an illness. Like, you never know what you're complimenting. They may have an eating disorder that you're actually enabling and supporting by telling them they look good, right? And even if they don't have any of those things, even if somebody who you know has been like working on healthy habits, you know them, complimenting their body on the way it looks is setting them up for failure, because they're going to gain that weight back if they've been doing it in a restrictive and non-sustainable way, which most people are. 95% of people will gain that weight back, and those compliments will go away. And what that does to people's self-esteem is so damaging. When all of a sudden you lose 15 pounds and you're getting all the compliments and comments from everyone, and then you gain it back and that's all gone. Think about how tied up our value and our worth is in all of that. So if you're complimenting people on their bodies, you are part of the issue. And part of why women are tying, and men are not excluded from that. Men do it too, but mostly women, tying our value and our worth to the way that our bodies look. So if you can start to retrain yourself, and it's hard, and I still even slip up sometimes. When you see somebody, just start to say, like, change it from "you look amazing" or "you look great" to "I'm so happy to see you. It's so great to see you. It's been too long. It's so great to see you." Okay. And if you want a baby step, even a little bit more of a baby step, you can just say, "Oh, I love your hair," or "I love your glasses," or "I love your shirt," right? Because those are things that, well, not everybody can control their hair, let's be honest. But if they got their hair colored or something, they can control that, I guess. But a piece of clothing or something like that, feel free to comment on that, because that can be changed pretty easily, whereas genetics cannot. And so that's just a really important thing to keep in mind. We have to stop commenting on other people's bodies, period, because we never know what's going on. And it is quite damaging, even when we think it's a compliment. Okay. All right. The next thing I want to cover is that small, consistent efforts over time will change your life. So we have to let go of perfection, and we have to let go of the all or nothing mindset. So I mentioned earlier, when we're thinking about healthy habits, we have to set ourselves up in a way where we're creating healthy habits that we can truly sustain for the rest of our lives. And that's where diet industry fails, right? Have you ever started out a diet, a restrictive diet, where you had a long-term goal of saying, okay, I'm going to get to X weight and I'm going to stay there forever? It's really, really rare, right? We think of it as, I'm going to get to X weight and then this diet's over. Okay. And that's not how it works. And when we restrict or exercise super hard, that's what our body gets used to. And so we have to maintain that if we did some quick weight loss where we were super restrictive and we did a ton of exercise and 15 pounds came off pretty quickly, it is nearly impossible to maintain that level of restriction and that level of exercise going forward. And this is why, for example, contestants on The Biggest Loser, nearly every single one of them gains their weight back, because they go from having like a chef and a specific meal plan in a very closed environment where they're not doing their job or dealing with kids or dealing with stress, and they're literally working out 6 hours a day. And yes, they lose huge amounts of weight, but nearly every single one of them goes home and gains it back, because that is not sustainable. And so we have to think long-term when we're thinking about healthy habits, and we have to set ourselves up for success. So instead of saying, I'm going to start running 3 miles 4 times a week and I'm going to eat 1,200 calories, right? We need to say, I'm going to start walking 10 minutes, 3 days a week, because that is what's sustainable. And then, I mean, eventually you would hopefully get to a little bit longer than that, but starting out, that's perfect. And that's the mindset we need to have for our healthy habits. And we're going to talk more about that, like I said, in a later episode, but this whole notion that small, consistent efforts done over long periods of time is what will change your life. We're going to really hit that in a lot of areas in that program, because it is so important to let go of perfection. And we'll talk about that in an episode later, and let go of the all or nothing mindset, because living your best life is found in the little tiny changes that you make on a long-term consistent basis. And it takes a while to see success. I heard a woman on a podcast say, we never question going to college for 2 to 4 years to get a degree. But for whatever reason, when it comes to our healthy habits, we think we should be able to do it in 21 days or 2 months or, something like that. No, it takes years to set up and create those healthy habits, just like it takes years to get a college degree. So we need to really shift our mindset and let go of that instant gratification, and trust that doing the small, consistent actions over a long period of time is going to get you to a healthy place where you feel great and you're living your best life. And that doesn't only apply to health habits, it applies to all the other things we're going to talk about in this program too. Okay. So the homework for this week is just a mindset one. You don't have to write anything. Well, sorry, there is written homework for this week related to your values, which we talked about in the last episode, or I guess you might have done that last week. When we do this in the group program or the one-on-one program, which, by the way, if you are interested in more support in this program, go check out womensbestlifeuniversity.com. You can join a group program. You can join a one-on-one program. You'll have, it's the same, you'll learn the same concepts, but it's much more structured. There's more structured homework. We structure it in weeks with weekly assignments. Doing it the podcast way is awesome. You will change your life, but it takes much longer. The group and the one-on-one program you can go and find at womensbestlifeuniversity.com. We'll get you through it in about 10 weeks is the timeline. But anyway, for this episode, the homework is just in your mind. You don't have to write anything down. You can, if you'd like, if that helps you. But what I want you to do, and I think I mentioned this maybe even in an earlier episode already, but I want you to start paying really close attention to the mean things you say in your head about your body. We have to change this. We have to, and the first step is awareness. It's to notice. We have to retrain our subconscious mind, because if your subconscious mind has a negative association with your body, which most of us, it does. Most people do have a negative association with the way their body looks. It's going to be hard to be successful maintaining healthy habits, because if your subconscious doesn't like your body, why would your subconscious want to help you out by doing things that are good for it? I want you to think about it like that. But the good news is you can reprogram that subconscious mind to feel positively about your body. And you have to be patient, because it's taken your whole life to train it to feel negatively. So it's going to take time to retrain it to feel positively. And the first step is awareness when you say mean things to yourself about your body. Okay. I just want you to notice it and be aware. Eventually, once you get really good at noticing, then you're going to start to speak to your body as you would somebody you love and care about, a daughter, a friend, a woman who you care about. I will only ever want you to say things that you would say out loud to a person who you love, to your own body. And I know that's a really difficult thing. That's why we just start with awareness. Just start to notice, how often are you saying mean things about your body? Is it 5 times a day? Is it once a day? Is it a few times a week? Just kind of start to pay attention and notice. You'll start to know when you're getting good at this, because you'll start to notice when other people say mean things about their bodies. And we do this. I used to do it all the time, say mean things about my own body out loud. And one of the worst things you can do if you have children is say something bad about your own body out loud, because when you say something bad about your own body out loud, the person who hears it about their own body. That's how brains work and subconscious programming works. Now, I don't want you to beat yourself up if you've done this. Many, many women have done this. I've done it. I work very hard to not do it in front of my kids, but it's okay if you've done it. You can still turn it around. The way to turn around is to stop. Stop saying mean things about your body out loud and in your mind, because it is damaging the people around you who hear you say that stuff. And that is so critical. So if you can't do it for yourself, do it for others. But we want you to get to the place where you're doing it for yourself, which means in your head, you're no longer saying mean things about your body. Okay. All right. This was a lot. I think we're coming up on 30 minutes. So I want to wrap it up. I try to keep these between 20 and 30 minutes, but I always have so much to say. And I'm so passionate about this stuff. So a quick recap of what we talked about in the most important points. The diet industry makes hundreds of billions off of you stopping and starting, which is why diets don't work. So we need to shift our focus away from weight and over to true health. The only reason you don't like your body is money, unfortunately. You can get healthy without losing any weight at all. You might be perfectly healthy right now. You might be healthy right now and have struggled for years and years and years to lose weight. That's how I was. I was already healthy. I didn't even need to lose any weight. I didn't need to, right? Now, wanting to, that's really normal. Wanting to lose weight is normal because of the way society has brainwashed us, right? Needing to is a different story. Do you even need to lose weight? And please do not base that off the BMI scale. It is BS. You can be obese on that scale and still be perfectly healthy. So go get your blood stats done and find out what healthy habits you need to work on and focus on based on that. But also we want to do healthy habits just in general to feel good in life. Okay. Even outside of blood stats. So even if your blood stats are perfect, as luckily mine are, well, it's not luck. It's work too. It's luck and work. There's privilege in there, but there's also work in there on healthy habits, which I now do consistently. But even if they are super perfect and healthy, you still want to continue healthy habits to maintain that health for the rest of your life and to feel good in life. Okay. So success is feeling good with good energy most days and not looking like a fitness model. So we got to shift that mindset, let go of perfection and the all or nothing mindset. And remember to start paying attention to those things that you say, negative things you say about your body. Okay. Amazing. As always, if you got any value out of this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you could go and leave a positive review, if you could follow or subscribe and recommend it to your friends. Thanks so much.